Hello and welcome to The Last Word on Spurs. We hope you're keeping very, very safe and well. Yep, it is therapy again. After a week of all the highs, we are sent straight back down to planet Earth in true Tottenham Hotspur classic style. I'm joined on this show by the brilliant Vasconi from Dr. Tottenham, the superb Tim Winston via Spurs Song Sheets, and the brilliant Sammy Powell. We need some energy tonight, boys. We really, really do. If you're listening to us for the first time, you can find us on iTunes. We're on Spotify. We're across all major audio platforms. We're, of course, on Twitter at Last Word on Spurs. We're on Facebook and Instagram too. And just to get some housekeeping out of the way, because I know tonight it's going to be a difficult one, a tricky one, that we are always absolutely delighted to be sponsored by the Beavertown Corner Pin. That is the Beavertown Bang opposite our South Stand. You can, of course, grab a pint before and after games at Beavertown. And look, we're hoping that the home and away fixture coming back very, very soon when hopefully Spurs are in a lot better form than what they are right now. Go and check out all of the latest Beavertown information by going to beavertownbrewery.co.uk. Right. Housekeeping out of the way. It is going to be one of those shows. It is most certainly. Vass, I'm going to open up the show with you, my friend, if you don't mind. Poor Vass is on almost like a horrendous run here on Last Word on Spurs. I think he's been on for the last 5 defeats straight for him in a row. We are going to have to somehow at one point reel him out, almost Gareth Bale style, and bring him on a show when we know Spurs are definitely 4-5-1 up, so we can try and get Vass back on the winning form. But Vass, got to get your thoughts on today. Look, from our best performance of the season to, in my opinion, no doubt our worst, another example really of Spurs failing to build on a good result and then crumbling at the first sign of a setback. And I'm referring, of course, to Mendy's equaliser today. The Bentancur injury, obviously a massive, massive worry. That's already our 8th defeat of the Premier League season already. How do you try and sum up, Vass, that performance, that result, if you can, at the King Power today?
Well, we had a good first 5 minutes, I thought. Scored the goal. We had a couple of breakaway chances. Perisic went through. We had another chance and we were pressing, and I thought, okay, looking good. But then we are Tottenham after all, aren't we? Mate, I don't know how to sum it up. I got to be honest, I was a bit sceptical when I saw Tanganga in the defence. I'm not blaming him individually. I think it was a bad team performance all around. I think Forster's a massive drop-off from Hugo. I know a lot of people were trying to talk him up this week, saying he was starting for Southampton and what have you. But, you know, even though we played badly, I thought he could have done better on a couple of those goals. But generally, I thought it was all very lacklustre. I thought Leicester, there was gaps in the midfield that we could have certainly taken advantage of today, because Leicester do play open. But we don't have the guile, we don't have the pace, we don't have the speed and the quality of passing through our midfield to get things going. And all Leicester had to do was block off our wing-backs, and we found that the ball was just getting recycled back to our defenders again. And none of those defenders on the pitch today were really very good on the ball anyway. So it was pretty dire, I've got to say. And that's, nice segue into the man himself who's copping a lot of flack today, Eric Dyer. Mate, I could just sit here all day and waffle on about how bad we were, but I think your listeners and your viewers will get quite bored with it, to be perfectly honest with you. But it was just a shocking drop-off in performance after last week. When we beat City last week, I was, much like most Spurs fans, I was feeling quite good. I was kind of optimistic for the rest of the season and what was going to come. And then you turn up today and you don't even bother trying almost. It's just shocking, mate.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to be honest with you, Vass. The drop-off, I mean, chalk and cheese to that performance against Man City, if I can bring you in here, Sam, because, I mean, look, dismal day. I've got to be honest and say, for me, I think 4-1 flattered us. I've got to be honest and say that because, you know, we use that word embarrassing a lot to describe a performance, but that really, really was embarrassing. You know, even if I go further, disgrace. Just a dreadful performance. And you know what, Sam, if I can just say to you, look, everything that was so good against Man City was completely and utterly missing today. Why was that, Sam? And how can you try and even describe the manner of that performance if you can try and find
firstly, Ricky, mate, what you need to do is what you've just asked me, you need to put that on repeat and play that every other show, because that is the bipolar world of Tottenham Hotspur. And what happens is, you know, we put in a performance and then it's completely different the next time. What I will say, and you know what? I'm ready for the backlash on this because I am Antonio Conte's number one fan. I will say that he is the man to drive Tottenham forward. I don't want anybody else here. I don't want Pochettino. I want Conte. It was Conte that was the 12th man missing today for me. And do you know what? The squad that was out there was good enough to beat Leicester. And it was Antonio Conte's passion that we used to see, and especially in the second half, that didn't happen. And it always happens. That's what's been Conte's specialist point, is that we come out in the second half and Tottenham are a different team. And that didn't happen. And there's just something isn't right with the Antonio Conte connection then. I'm sorry if I'm upsetting anybody saying that. I'm saying it how I see it. And I just didn't see the Conte connection with the squad in that second half. We were second to the ball. I'm not questioning. I'm not saying Conte out. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is he was the difference. And we were second to the ball. We were slower to the ball, giving away fouls near the area. I mean, seriously, that could have been the biggest. That's the biggest gig that we didn't have to do with James Maddison being the game player. And that's all we seem to do, you know. So there's something wasn't right with the communication of what a manager should have said of how to play Leicester City to what happened on the field. And it was really disappointing. I agree with you. It should have been more. But do you know what? It just didn't happen for Tottenham today. And I think, to be honest with you, there's a couple of players I could pinpoint that we're probably going to come on to that shouldn't be there.
Tim, if I can bring you in, look, I mean, bless you, I must just say, Tim was rehearsing songs the night before, ready to give us a bit of a sing song. And I say, you know, he's been working so hard in the background, as I know, and people need to understand. I think, again, maybe I will expose him for this. Tim has been a massive part of the reason why that atmosphere at the stadium in certain games we've seen has been superb. He's been working his butt off, must I say, with, obviously, we've seen the Richarlison songs that have come and wonderful songs that Tim has personally been behind and helped massively try and galvanise the fan base. But, I mean, look, you know what, Tim? Ultimately, after one of our, well, for me, the biggest performance of the season against Man City, Spurs produce almost a typical letdown display, which again highlights the glaring frailties defensively that we've seen in Spurs for so many years. And for me, Tim, that just can no longer be ignored. It's just so utterly frustrating where we've seen again another week, teams around us dropping points and Spurs yet again failing to capitalise on it. But I mean, Tim, today, the game, the King Power, is there anything you can say or fighting words for such an lackluster performance after leading the game?
It's so bizarre, mate. I mean, yeah, as you well know, so we were practicing. We had it all set up, and after 10 minutes, I was thinking, okay, so we're going to lead him a Bentancur. Great song, let's go. And then it just fell apart, didn't it? But to be honest, it was falling apart before that. I mean, Leicester were all over us for the first, until we scored, first 7-8 minutes. And I just felt it was going to be one of those days, unfortunately. And I was fortunate to be at the ground last week. And I got to say a massive shout out to the home fans last week. They were unbelievable. I mean, from start, I know you said it on your previous pod, from start to finish, they're right behind the team. But the team gave them the performance to get up for it. You know, it is a two-way relationship, isn't it? That is the whole thing. And when we've been going at home, we've been going down 1 or 2 goals every game. It is hard to get behind the team. I kind of get it both ways. But today was just nothing. It was just, it was a goal out of nowhere. We had those 2 corners from Perisic. To be fair, took a decent free kick. And then we score, and I'm like, oh, God, we just build on this now. We've got a kind of lucky break. Let's just go. It just went the complete opposite way. It was just, like you said, it's the most frustrating. I've supported Spurs for over 35 years. It's just the most frustrating thing when you think we got ourselves back into a top 4 position here. By luck or by judgment or whatever, we've managed to pull together a couple of results. So other results have gone our way. And you think today's the chance, get back in that top 4, put the pressure on Newcastle. And then just to be served up that, I mean, defensively, we were absolutely shocking. I mean, shocking. I mean, every time, whether it's Perisic or whether it was, like Ben Davies obviously was at fault for one of the goals, but it's just that, I think that's the second goal. He's played out to Kane. I'm thinking, he's on the halfway, I said this before, he's on the halfway line. How is that dangerous? And then they just cut through us, straight through. Goal. You're thinking, how would we set up that way to just be so terrible at the back? It was just it was a real gutter, mate. I'm a very, very positive person, and I'm always behind the team.
But today was a real hard one. That was a hard one to take today, especially from where we were, where the position we got ourselves in. Yeah, you talking your shows 2-3 weeks ago, it was all doom and gloom, and we got ourselves in a position to build on it, haven't we? Right,
Yeah, absolutely.
Keep going towards the end of the season.
That's the frustration, Tim, isn't it? Yep.
Yeah.
That is the problem. From week to week, you just don't know what you're going to get with this Tottenham team. I mean, Vas, to bring it back round to you, the defence have done what arguably they seem to usually do, where, poorly, I just don't know if it's a word for it, because there's just something that wasn't right today. I don't know if you agree. Listen, we got the goal early, as Tim referred to, but there was no real lack of fight. That's how it felt to me watching it. The body language to me didn't look right. It was almost like there was a real lack of desire amongst the team, where you can arguably raise it for Man City because they are the champions. There's a reason why you want to perform to your absolute maximum, but there's no point if you're going to play to your absolute best against Man City and then perform like that against Leicester. With no disrespect, I know they've made a couple of signings, but these are the games that you have to win if you want to be in and amongst the top four and pushing forward. And, we've got no Lloris, arguably, again, massively criticised this season for his errors. Whatever you say, he's a leader in that dressing room. And I said it on the last show, no Romero. He was always going to be a big
it's the defence, isn't it, Ricky? I'm so sorry to cut in here. I'm biting my lip. I'm just listening to you. I'm biting my lip. It's the defence. And I said it in the last show.
It's indefendable, isn't it? Indefendable defence.
It is. It's the back. It's all at the back. That's where the problem has stemmed from. And you know what? I'm saying about Conte's connection before, and I'll agree with that. But it is the back, and that's what he knows needs changing. But it is all the back line. Dyer, just Tanganga. Come on.
Look,
when we played, sorry, but in there, but I'm
that's okay, mate. When we played City a few weeks ago at their place, and we took a 2-0 lead and lost 4-2. The staff and the players had a meeting apparently, and they thrashed a few things out. And Conte's always big on this phrase about players have to suffer and play for each other and whatever. And we kind of went back to basics, and we started defending as a team. And we got 1-0 win at Fulham. We got a 1-0 win at City. I think there was another 1-0 win that I can't remember right now. But nevertheless, we sort of addressed issues, and we were playing as a team. Everyone defending for each other, breaking on the counter, creating some chances. Today, there was none of that. Now, I don't know whether the players had one eye on Tuesday night, which if they did, that's out of order. You can't play like that. But it was just too lackadaisical today. The defence were all over the place. I'll give Porro a pass today because it was his first start, and he does have to adjust.
Yeah, I'm the same as you on that, Vas.
Yeah, but the thing is that Leicester knew all they had to do was get behind Porro and get behind Perisic. And the three centre-backs that were starting today were going to struggle to cope, especially without adequate cover and adequate pressing in front of them. I'm going to digress a little bit. I mean, Kulusevski, for example, hasn't been the same player since the World Cup for me. Usually on that right-hand side, they make life so difficult for players to get in behind us. And he has been a bit of a shadow of himself lately. And Perisic on the other side, and I've said this for a while, so this is not a new take from me. At times, he plays his age and he looks it. He's a great deliverer of the ball from a corner or a free kick or what have you. But really, I know he played wing back for Conte before at Inter for a season or something like that. But maybe his legs are gone now. He can't play that. For Croatia, he plays in Sonny's position, So there was a lot of weaknesses in our side today, but I just think the effort wasn't there. The coordination wasn't there. Last week, we were praising Sonny for looking like his old self, picking the ball up, running with it. But today, he was back to losing the ball amongst his feet and running into opposing players. It was just a mess. Even Harry Kane, and as much as I love him, and he's a fantastic legend of the club now, even he didn't look too interested today, I've got to say. So it was just a bad performance all round by everybody. And I don't know what the trigger for that was.
We are going to come on to the manager. I mean, I'm conscious that a lot of comments are referring to the way in which Spurs are being set up tactically and then substitutions, how they're being managed. And again, look, today's performance for me, it's got to be on the manager, as well as the fact that arguably we have almost got to some degree there a championship defence. In the most polite way I say that, because, we've got players there that have been there for 7, 8, 9 years. And look, Davis, for me, I think, again, he's given his everything to Tottenham. I just think we're at a point now where sometimes giving you everything just sometimes isn't enough. And I think, again, Dyer, look, we've seen it time and time again where, arguably you get one good game in 3 with him. There was a period under Conte where he was so consistent. But, coming over to you, Tim, I talk about the defence, and when I look at the fact that it just feels for me, I said this before the window shut, and again, this is not, in hindsight, or it's not reactive, that, for Spurs to fail to sign a centre-back, I understand, it's always hard in January to get the very, very top elite centre-backs, but I think that was a massive, massive failing on the club's hierarchy. When you look at the options that we've got, that we did not bring a centre-back in. Again, you can easily say that in hindsight, but when I read to you here, Tim, Spurs' goals against from 15-16, 35, 16-17, 26, 17-18, 36, 18-19, 39, 19-20, 47, 20-21, 45, 21-22, 40, 22-23, 35. That's after 23 games. We're on course to concede 58 games. How can a team, Tim, that have any aspirations of finishing in the Champions League places or looking to go as a club in the right trajectory, manage and sustain on that level with that defence? It's impossible, isn't it, Tim?
They can't. So you look at last season, every game towards the end of the season, we're on that upward trajectory, weren't we? But it was all built on a solid base, wasn't it? So we were going to games, we were leading pretty much every game we went into. We weren't having to. Look at the season. This season, we've been turning around games, and even today, in my mental mind, I was thinking at 3-1. If we score 1 goal, there's every chance we can get 3-3 or maybe 4-3 because of the way the season's gone. And it just obviously didn't happen today. But to have to think that, pretty much, oh God, I can't remember how many games we've been behind. It's been utterly mental. We got to sort it out, and you're absolutely right. I mean, you had we signed someone decent as a backup in the window, you take Romero out. I mean, Romero, he's banned for 1 game. It takes 1 game, 1 player for us to fall. Not that we've not been falling apart all season, but
no, I agree.
Again, I know Vass's podcast,
the most prominent defender, right? As well,
mate. Vass's podcast is called Dr. Tottenham. Dr. Tottenham was the perfect analogy today because we'd shored up the defence, hadn't we? I mean, we conceded 1 in 5 or something. We turned that around. And
I think 5 clean sheets out of the last 7.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and everyone thinks, do you know what? We've turned it around. We've got there now. Yeah, we're missing Romero, but someone will come in, and we've just completely fell apart. It's just and it literally that's the difference in the game. You keep a solid defence. You get to 1-0 at half time. You're looking at potentially a solid 3 points, 1-0 away from home. Not a great performance, but we'll take the points. It's just turned into an absolute car crash from there. So it's a massive oversight, really. Not getting at least someone in. That's again for me the biggest question today. And again, I'm not into question Conte, but how is Sanchez not started? I mean, I'm not Sanchez's biggest fan, but why are you putting Tanganga in ahead of Sanchez? I mean, Sanchez came on last week.
Completely agree.
I don't get it. I just don't get that. You're one or the other. You can't keep swapping around because then even the players on the pitch are thinking, well, what are you doing? Like,
and also just saying, again, I've criticised this guy. I'm sure we all have during points of the season. We all want to see Porro, don't get me wrong. But Emerson Royal has just had the best game of the season against Man City. And his reward for that is to be dropped to the bench. Now, I'm not suggesting here that Emerson Royal is a world beater. But at the same time, I mean, what does that do to the guy's confidence when he then is dropped for the game? I mean, Sam, come on that.
I think he was saving him for Milan. Sorry, go on, Sam.
Okay. Go on, Sam.
No, I think you're right. But on the flip side, I think Ricky is as well. I mean, this is like I said before, the bipolar world of Tottenham Hotspur. But the bottom line is that Emerson Royal has been, and I have been at the top of that ladder of saying he isn't good enough for Tottenham. But he pulls out a performance like he does about Manchester City, and it will doubt your mind. It really will, because he was amazing against Manchester City. He was, dare I say, he was a game changer.
Unbelievable.
I think he was a game changer. And do you know what? He was missing tonight. And he was missing tonight.
When would you ever have thought you'd say that, Sammy? When would you ever
have thought
that?
I've got to say,
neither did I.
I saw Tim Sherwood going massively in on Pedro Porro. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to sit here and criticise a debutant where, with no disrespect, he's playing with a backup goalkeeper and he's playing with a defence, in my opinion, coming over to you, Vas, that just isn't fit for purpose.
I'm not going to sit Ricky. Let me just answer. Let me just say this from the question that you asked me. So I'm sorry, Vas, to interrupt, but
that's all right.
I've got to say, picking out individual performances on this is going to be. It's Disneyland. There's no point in doing that because it's like Vas said before, and no disrespect to the comment that Harry Kane wasn't on point, which he wasn't on point. But I mean, saying Harry Kane wasn't on point is like trying to make the world's best cheeseburger with a perfect burger and putting soggy lettuce and out of date onions and terrible tomatoes on it and putting it in a bun and asking it to taste nice. The bottom line is this isn't an individual performance. Every single layer of that burger has to work in order for it to taste good. And at the moment at Tottenham Hotspur, that isn't working. So that's my opinion on it. Pedro Porro did nothing wrong. Harry Kane did nothing wrong. To be fair, Rodrigo Bentancur did nothing wrong, apart from the fact that we're absolutely devastated that he may be injured. But the bottom line is the gelling, those few individual players that need replacing are bringing the squad down, and it's a difference of 3 goals or more.
There's a lot of questions, Vas, in regards to the manager, which we're going to come on to in a second. But before we do, Vas, just for you, defence today, can you understand, that lineup? We're going to come on to it in a second, but defensively, there should be better, shouldn't it, Vas? There's players in there that arguably... It's just not good enough, is it?
No, listen. I mean, I know we should have addressed centre back by now. We've had enough windows to do it. I think we wasted last summer chasing the lad at Inter, Bastoni, and that was never going to happen. Skriniar was up in the air. So I don't think we had a target outside of those. January, as you say, Ricky, is always difficult. I don't know which centre backs were available in January for us to go for that would have, mind you, I suppose anybody would have improved what we got right now. But yeah, I don't know how easy deals are done in January. And you saw with the chase for Porro how long some transactions take. But for today, I mean, that defensive line, it wasn't good. It wasn't good. And as much as Hugo has had criticism this season for shipping goals and costing us points and whatever, his mere presence at the back there is worth so much. And I think we missed that today. I agree with Tim, who said that, Romero out, why not just bring Sanchez in? I mean, Sanchez has always been Romero's understudy. He captained the team against Portsmouth in the FA Cup. Was it Preston?
Yeah. Preston.
Yeah. So it was really weird.
Ricky, I'm going to butt in as well. So I'm so sorry, Vas. Someone's put a comment on there. I just want to read it out. He's put that Conte's got only one formation. He hasn't. Excuse me. He's got multiple formations. Conte is known for switching up at half time and changing the formation. He's one of the only managers that does that. That at half time he will change the game by looking at reading the game ahead and looking at how it's being played and going ahead. And do you know what? At the moment, there's something up with Antonio Conte and his connection to Tottenham. I'm sorry to interrupt that. I just wanted to answer that whilst it was.
Vas, come in there, Vas. Bring that into context and also Conte as well. I mean, go finish on the defence first and we'll come on to Conte.
The one thing I was going to say about the defence was I noticed today, last week they adopted this tactic where Dyer stepped into the midfield, and it seemed to work against City.
Aggressive.
It was aggressive. It enabled us to press. It enabled some of their nimble midfielders to turn on the ball. To stop them turning on the ball. And that worked. And for some reason, we've continued it today. And Dyer's moving into midfield and just leaving oceans of space behind him. He did that a few occasions. So it just was not great today. It's all a bit of a mess.
Yeah. I agree.
The real thing for me, you said about Emerson, right? It's just I've got real beef with this because lucky enough to be at the ground last week, and that was an unbelievable performance. And everyone, I went with my mate, it's a Man United fan, and I was we were completely this player's going to play right wing back. He can't cross the ball. We just basically was honest with him, and then he was like, "He's your best player by an absolute country mile." And I'm thinking, okay, so Emerson's known for being defensively better than he is offensively. So why not put him in? I get we got to give Porro a debut, but was it the time to do it today? It's just a strange decision. Again, there's plenty of talk on Twitter and online about putting him in as a right centre, on the right side of centre half. and then still playing Porro, and I'd been up for that, to be honest, because hindsight's a wonderful thing, but I just don't get it. That would kill it. Yeah, if anyone's played football, you play like that in front of your home fans when you've been battered online for so long by everyone, by every pundit, and you play that, and then you get taken out the team. You just don't do it. You just don't do it. It's a strange decision.
Like I said, I think he's saved for AC Milan, because I think we are going to be a little bit more defensive against AC Milan, and
I hope so.
Royale, he's always popped in these games. You know, Liverpool away, City at home.
Yeah.
These games where we do a lot more defending and then we break. He's always had good games in those sorts of environments. And I think it's probably right to bring Porro in today, because he's going to have to get his debut at some point.
I agree with that.
And maybe the feeling was that we would do more attacking today, but inevitably, as it turned out, we didn't. So
if we went Vass, if we went 2-0 down, and everyone would have been shouting, "Why isn't Porro on?" Do you know what I mean?
Of course, that would have happened definitely.
He's got the stats. He's got what it takes.
Yeah,
Porro is a great player. He just wasn't linking
that
up.
would have happened definitely. But as for right centre back for Royale, I'm not sure he can play there. He's not good enough on the ball. It's a different position, really.
Yeah.
I think we're looking for ways to shore up the defence by putting different pieces in. I mean,
Vaz, can I ask you this? What Ricky was saying before? Because I'm sorry, guys, for keep butting in. I'm passionate about the fact that we've lost here, so you are going to get a turbulent show out of me. So from what Ricky was saying before, Emerson Royale, he's had a great game at Man City, so why leave him out? And the answer from, I reckon, 80% of the people will be leave him out because he's not good enough. But he had such a good game, so and we all know that he probably isn't the standard for Tottenham, but. Yeah, would you not play him? Would you not play him in that game?
Honestly, it's a game of opinions, isn't it? I would never ever, especially let's say we had a game last midweek, and we're having that period where we're having midweek Saturday, midweek Sunday, midweek Sunday. We've had a whole week to get over a game. I get we've got a game coming up against Milan. I get it. I do understand your points. I just think for a game away from home, when actually. Yeah, do you know, maybe right. Maybe we were expected to be more offensively, and the way it worked out was completely the opposite. And that's
there was a lot of things that went wrong today, fellas. I mean, I don't think.
That's good point.
Yeah, I don't know whether Royale would have fixed it. You know, just one person wouldn't have changed that performance, probably, because there was a lot of subpar performances throughout the whole team, and that is the concern. And what Sammy was saying about lack of communication from Conte. We need to see better in-game management from Conte.
Yeah,
he needs to react to what's going on the pitch, and I don't know, shoring up his defence, switching formation, bringing on another midfielder. I don't know, but it's not currently quite good enough from Conte.
Well, you know what? This comment here from Alex Lally, who says, too many guests on this and other two shows are too scared to criticise Conte. Alex, can I just say to you, I've got no problem at all in criticising Antonio Conte. For me, he's shown in the last few months.
I just did.
Well, yeah, I think that's
exactly.
And I think also for me, that his formation for me to some degree, I know what Sam just said there. I think he's very inflexible. I think he's quite stubborn. I think his changes are quite reactive rather than proactive, in my personal opinion. I'm not doubting the man is an unbelievable coach. I'm not doubting that he will make players better. But for me, I've got to be able to say that I haven't seen that enough this season. And I do not think it helps. And I'll keep on saying this. I don't think it helps that the manager has got 3 to 4 months left on his contract. And there's this uncertainty looming and hanging over everybody, from the board, for us, for the players. I don't see how this situation benefits anybody. It really, really doesn't. It really, really doesn't. And I think Conte is massively part of this, Sam.
I agree with
I have
that.
to say that.
With every game we play, that tension gets higher and higher.
Absolutely.
And higher, doesn't it?
And that is why there's frustration amongst the fans, which then translates to the board. And this will keep on going and going and going until we get a conclusion to it. And my worry is that this is different to last season, in my opinion, because the players, for me, it's, as I said at the start of this show, it's very easy. If I start with you, Vass, it's very easy to play against Man City when you're playing against arguably one of the best teams, not only in the league, but in the world. And they were also off at City last week. I will say this, as good as Tottenham were last week, please don't be fooled that with City, there is a massive issue there. Whether you want to dress that up or whatever, was a great Spurs performance, was the best performance of our season. But please don't be blind to the fact that defensively, we've got massive issues. And Antonio Conte is the manager. and he's him that I expect to make a difference and change it. And look, again, this is nothing to do with the man's health. I wish him the very, very best with recovery. Health is the most important thing, but this is about football. And Vas, to start with you, Stellini said after the game in his press conference that Conte had a different feeling on the touchline, and it's hindering to somewhat as he tries to recover. I'm not even too sure if the man should have been there today, Vas, but
No, probably shouldn't.
as you said there, Vas, defensively, we should be better than that. I know it's a poor defence, and I know we need to make improvements, and I know we need to do more in the market, but there's something just not right, is there, Vas, with the manager and the way we're playing?
No. And on your point for last week, yeah, there's something not quite right with Man City either. I just hope they got enough to beat Arsenal to the tail.
That was a good point.
But for us, actually, there was somebody that I follow on Twitter. He said, Conte knows he's leaving. Levy knows he's leaving. The players know he's leaving. The fans know he's leaving. Chaz and Dave know he's leaving, and one of them's dead. So it's just, you're right, Rick. It's just this situation is not helping. It's hard to build for a future if you don't know what that future is going to look like, and it's adding to the pressure. Of course it is. But as we said earlier, we need Conte's passion on the sideline. We had it last season, and that partly drove us to clinch the Champions League spot. It hasn't really been there this season. He looks very passive at times, and I don't know whether it's his health or whether it's stuff to do with the batch of friends that he's lost in recent times or whatever, or whether his heart is now pining to be back in Italy or whatever it is. But it's not the same Antonio Conte, the standing on that touchline, driving those players on, and that's a big factor.
So the weird thing is, Vas, so last week, so you look at Stellini, he was the guy going nuts running on the side like Conte used to be. So he was doing all that last week, and you sort of look at it today, and it probably would have been better if he wasn't there, because if he's not up to it, or
I agree.
Not there
I agree
for
with
whatever
you.
reason, because that does translate to the players, doesn't it? Like last week, everyone was up, the fans are up for it. Stellini's going nuts on the sideline. I'm not one of those fans. I look at the manager, I'm thinking, I love that. That gets me going.
Tim, you base everything around the fans' passion, right? The fans' voice, the fans' acoustics, what the fans mean to a football club. Well, imagine the difference between having an Antonio Conte running up and down the sideline, excuse me, almost strangling the other manager. That passion that Conte brings. The reason why we all love him.
Sorry to be, but look at Chelsea last year. How much did everyone get right in on that? Because I'm not condoning violence, right? But that shows passion for the team, isn't it?
That passion. And I do agree with you, mate, in exactly everything that you say. And I feel like, sort of, where is that?
It's not there. It's not there.
And I know that he's had the personal issues, and then we put it down to the death of, we put it down to all sorts, and then he's been stitched up more times than we have this year on an operating table. He's had problems, and there are issues with Antonio Conte that he's had to deal with personally, and wish him nothing but the best as an incredible manager, decorated manager. That is an incredible manager that I want at Tottenham Hotspur, but where that at Tottenham has slowly diminished.
It does. Again, it sounds brutal to say it doesn't help the team, does it? That's a problem. So it always goes to drag the team down.
Yeah, and I must just say again very quickly, look, I'm fully aware and knowledgeable to the fact that Conte has not got the most perfect squad or the most perfect 11. But I think the answer, the message, Tim, I probably want to ask you is just being honest about it. That, would another manager get more out of this current set of players or squad, in your opinion, Tim? Or is this the maximum that this squad can get achieved under a manager? What's your opinion on that, Tim?
And this is a weird thing, right? This is Tottenham for you. So if you asked me that 3 weeks ago, I'd say probably yes. If you asked me that yesterday, before today, I'd probably say no. So it's so up and down. Like the guys are saying, it's such an up and down club. It's such a difficult question to ask. I think with where we are now, we're out the transfer window. We can't send anyone else. Yeah, we've obviously got some injury blows. Let's God forbid Bentancur. He's the reason, by the way. God forbid it's not as bad as everyone thinks. We lost Basuma, we've lost Hugo, potentially lost Bentancur. You kind of need the team to come together. I can't see how changing the manager now is going to have any positive effects. I just can't see it. But at the same time, if we've got Conte on the sideline being completely passive, then I'm kind of 50-50.
And I must just come back in on this and say, look, we're not just saying it's the manager. You know, how many times have I said it on
No,
last
of
week with
course
Spurs
not.
where
Jesus
this is
Christ.
down to a lack of investment of not giving every single manager in the last 4 or 5 years exactly what they've needed. We didn't give Josie what he needed. We didn't give Pochettino what he needed. We arguably, again, I'm not even going to bring Nuno into the conversation. It's a different manager. But Sam, you know, you've been a massive Conte fan. You've backed him to the hill. But do you also think, Sam, whilst you feel, in your opinion, there has been some flexibility of tactics, he's got to show more of it? Because, again, I'll make that point. The investment for me hasn't been enough. I think, again, with regards to this last window that's just shut, we could, and needed to do more. And I've said that time and time again, that after every window under this current ownership, we always, for me, in my opinion, are a couple of players short. That's how I've always felt, and that's how I always feel I will be. Does changing the manager resolve this or sort this out, Sam? Does it do anything at this moment?
No, it doesn't. I agree with Tim. Changing the manager doesn't do this. Now, I've just been really critical about Antonio Conte, but what I was saying is he doesn't seem to be all there. And you know what? How long have you got here, Ricky? Because I've got a controversial statement for you. And this is, in my opinion, on Tottenham Hotspur at the moment is this. Okay, the board isn't very popular at the moment. Okay. Daniel Levy isn't very popular at the moment. Innick aren't very popular at the moment. They're not. But do you know what? They're doing fabulous things. They are doing fabulous things. The bottom line is the team that was out today were good enough to beat Leicester City Football Club. Okay, that's the bottom line. Okay, it's not Innick. It's not Daniel Levy. It's Antonio Conte who had control of the team today to make that team go out there and win. And it's a difference between, maybe it's a difference between a halftime speech or not. I'm not to say. But we were better enough to beat them, and we are better than them. Obviously, they've got a few game changers, and Nacho and James Maddison, game changers. But you know what? We're better than Leicester City Football Club. So you tell me where the problem lies there. The problem lies in the squad that we've currently got gelling together. Now, who gels the squad together? Well, listen, I've got a business with many employees, and they're all incredibly different. Right? Every single one of them are different. They don't work the same. Everybody goes on cigarette breaks at different times. Everybody types slower than each other. Everybody's different. But you know what? We're successful because the team worked together. And the difference is that you pull everybody together, line up everybody's attributes and make sure that they can all work together. And for some reason, that hasn't happened at Tottenham for a long time. And it
was happening last season. It's not happening now. For me,
yeah,
so I agree.
Everyone was
coming together.
This is, do you know what? This is the point I was getting at, and I'm sorry, you've just nailed it in one sentence. So the point I'm getting at is this was happening when Antonio Conte first came in. So I'm not saying, and please everybody with the comments, I am not saying Antonio Conte isn't the man for the job. In fact, I don't think we will ever get a better manager in the next 10 years.
I look at Antonio. I just think the problem is we're not ready for Antonio Conte.
I don't think so.
This hierarchy, in my opinion, aren't ready for him.
I don't think so. There could be, there's elements to it. I could even go so far enough to say is the fact that Spurs are cursed and Antonio Conte has had the biggest personal run of bad luck in his life that has brought him out of his own element, that it just isn't happening at Tottenham.
We Spursed Conte.
For me, he just looks tired. I look at him and I just think, Vas, coming over to you.
Yeah,
he looks drained. He looks drained, Vas. He looks like a man that, for me, is just very tired of Tottenham. And he's only been here for for less than 18 months. I mean, you know what? Go on, Vas.
Sorry, mate. The problem is, I think whatever manager comes in with good intention, and then before too long realizes the enormity of the task, right? And it ends up beating them. Now, the enormity of the task is a knock-on effect from probably going back as far as those 2 summers where we didn't buy any players. And we've been paying the price ever since because we're trying to play catch-up in purchasing players, turnover of players. You know, we spent some good money on players that haven't worked, and now we've got about £200 million worth of players out on loan, and things haven't been done properly. Now, things have started to look a bit better since sort of Paratici came on board, well, for however long he's going to still be around. And there seems to be some joined up thinking. We got Bentancur and Kulusevski last year, and it kind of kick-started our season, and we went on and reached the Champions League. but there is also still in the side some staleness. And people mention players like Dyer and Davies, good pros. Davies, for example, has always given his best, and he's quite instrumental in that 2017 season that everyone keeps harping back to. But they've stuck around too long. Other players like Sessegnon clearly haven't worked. The man was injured again today. Lucas, we know, is going to be moving on soon. We're not renewing his contract. So there's still a lot of work to be done. And whether Conte is the man to do that job, that is the question that is baffling everybody right now, because if he's not going to extend his contract and he's only going to be here until June, then what's going to happen? We're going to end up starting all over again in the summer, aren't we, with somebody else?
Yep.
So this is the mess that we're in right now.
Yep.
But it's also on the players.
I agree massively. It's on that defence, that 11 today.
Well, not just
massively.
the defence, Ricky. You can't have games where there's a drop off throughout the team like today, because that's on everybody. Yeah, defence has got its role to play. Of course, it has. I don't think personally Forster's good enough. Dyer is not a great defender when he hasn't got somebody better alongside him. Davies has limitations, and that right centre back role when Romero's not there is just not great.
So what you're saying, Vas, is that the defence isn't good enough and the back isn't good enough, which is the problem. That is what you're saying, though.
You can't have a bad defence and then have the players in front of that defence not on their A game, because then that just makes things worse.
The amount of times, and I've seen this in multiple games now, Vas makes an absolute great point. So the amount of times, again, I'm going to blame. So look at one of the goals today. Ben Davies has played that ball to Kane, right? And I'm not blaming Kane for not getting there first or whatever, but that's come straight back. That's happened so many times. We used to be able to hold the ball up and then move the team forward from there, get the defence up. The amount of times that ball comes straight back. So that's either bad balls, which is 9 times out of 10. But also, you look at Sonny. We've lost a world-class player at top. A world-class player that last year, Golden Boot joint winner, just not on it. Every time today, he's got the ball, he tried to turn, got beaten. And it just puts once the attacking team or the opposition team then starts swarming you're swarmed. And it's happened I've seen it so many times. And I just don't think you can't forget that. Remember, you defend from the front. And if you're trying to play balls out and you're trying to counter-attack, and then you lose it because you just had a bad touch or whatever, or someone's beating the ball, you're under pressure straight away. It's just happened so many games this season.
Yeah. If you're back strong enough, then they've got you. They've got your back.
Yeah. That's the problem, isn't it, Tim? That's the problem, Sam. They're not.
Your legs support your body. Do you know what I mean? And they put them there for a reason. And the bottom line is, you're at the back because you're the legs, and you know what job you have to do. They're not asking you to score 22 goals a season.
You're right. They're asking you to keep them out. They're asking you to keep 22 goals out.
And the bottom line is, that's where it lies.
Yeah, but that's too simplistic, fellas. I'm sorry. You're at the back to stop the goals going in, but you're also at the back to feed the players in front of you. And those players in front of you, when they haven't got the ball, they're there to protect your legs. Right? It's a team game. We can't just pin this on the defence. The defence is poor. It's got limitations. We know this, right? But today was a bad team performance all around. All of them. Kane,
so are you telling me that anybody plus the midfield are to blame for any of the goals going in today?
All of them.
I'm only
1 to 11. Sam, I'm telling you, 1 to 11. Everybody was not good enough. Everybody. I'm not going to sit here and chastise Pedro Porro when he's just come into a new league and he's got the reserve goalkeeper. He's got the backup goalkeeper in goal. He's got a central defensive pairing with, no disrespect, Eric Dyer, who has been continually making errors this season. I don't think it's fair to then chastise Pedro Porro for
but you're focusing on the defence again, Rick. Sorry, mate. I mean, take their goals, right? That first goal came off a corner.
Yeah.
Whole team was back there.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
right?
and
who's defending?
Who's trained to defend
where did we lose the ball for their second goal? Yeah,
midfield.
But
I just said, is there anybody above midfield to blame to that? I mean, we have got. This is where we're strengthened up. We've got Kulusevski, we've got Richarlison, we've got Heung-min Son, we've got Harry Kane. Yeah, the attack is like a double barrel shotgun
But
fully loaded.
the problem is, only
When
today,
it works, when it doesn't work.
Yeah, it's
it puts you under
rusted
pressure.
up at the moment.
Yeah, the game is played from the back, and that's what happens. And they're just not strong enough at Tottenham at the moment.
No.
They're just not. And that was it. You know, when you're mentioning Ben Davies and whatever, and saying, "Listen, the class players, they're not."
I didn't say class. Never used that word.
Okay, but the players
Good
that
pros,
should
I
be
said.
the players that should be at. If I seen him playing a good game at Nottingham Forest, I'd say he's got potential. They're not worthy of Tottenham Hotspur, and I've said this a few times. And you know, I'm sorry if I'm emotional about this, but Ben Davies and Eric Dyer, and Eric Dyer's had some great games.
Again,
for
this
Tottenham.
is
They're not good enough.
Yeah, but that's the
We're not
point. They're not good
we're not-
enough. I agree
No.
with you. They're not good enough. But the fact that they are there, they have a whole team ahead of them to make their lives a little bit easier.
Yeah,
And that team wasn't functioning today.
absolutely.
It was the same defense that played against City, let's say, apart from Romero was out and Tanganga came in. Okay, we switched the wing back as well. But you're focusing on the players that played last week. Same players. But we played as a team last
this
week.
brings us back to Emerson Royale as well, though, and the difference he had when he was on the pitch.
But
We played as a team last week. That's the thing.
I think that is the difference when you look at today and compared to yesterday. From last week to today, that is chalk and cheese. You had a team in 11 that were absolutely solely dedicated and desired to getting a result. And today, look, we got very lucky to go ahead, but at the same time, just for me, the desire wasn't there. And again, for me, that's not just on one person. That is on both Conte and it is on both the players. And arguably, we've said it before
Ricky,
here so many times.
Can I ask you one question and then I'll stay stum right for as long as you want me to? I'll ask you one question. So Nottingham Forest start a game against whoever, and their starting lineup it has got Tanganga, Davies, and Dyer in defence. Do you think that's a strong team?
No.
I'm not mentioning any other players. Do you
No,
think
no,
that's
it's not.
strong?
It's not. It's
It's
a
not, but it depends
We're
how
Tottenham
hard the team
Hotspur.
works.
We're Tottenham
Exactly.
Hotspur.
No, I
That's
agree.
all I'm
They're
trying to
not
say.
good enough. But we said before, you know, with no disrespect to Dyer and Davies, I think Vash used the term they're good on his pros. They are good on his pros, but at the same time, you know, certain players come to a level, an expiry where they're no longer good enough for a certain level. And that's just my opinion. These players, look, they're good on his pros. I don't think they're bad people. I think they're good guys, but ultimately good guys don't always win. And who said that? Jose Mourinho, a guy that's won everything in the game. But look, we must go for our first break of the show. Before we do, just going to read you out just some of Stellini's comments, and you can make of them what you wish. He was asked to explain the inconsistencies about the performances in relation to last week and then this King Power display. And he said, not an explanation, because if you know what happens, you can change this. It's also happened last season. We beat Man City. We lost to Burnley. To be consistent is a long process, a mental process. You have to be better mentally, better in the approach. Today, the approach was not bad, but after we scored the goal, something changed. He was then asked, there seems to be a struggle getting to grips with the mental problem. Do you have to change personnel? He said, we're a team. This team has to change something, not only individually, it's about the desire. You want to play this game. It's about recovering energy mentally. When you play like a team, maybe you can use the energy you have. To recover this energy, it's like a battle and how much you can battle to contain. You have to recreate the same energy. To have this bigger battle, you have to work, and we have to do it. We are going to come on shortly to Rodrigo Bentancur, of course. It's a big, big worry with regards to him. But like I say, Lee McQueen, I've got to say, Lee, bless him, put us some context here. He said 14 games to go last season. We lost to Burnley after beating the champions. 15 games to go this season. We lost to Leicester after beating the champions. How many points did we have? 39. It is the same thing over and over again. We are fifth as things stand at the moment. We are, with regards to Newcastle now, they're 2 points ahead of us after drawing.
Finished the draw, by the way.
Yeah, so two games in hand over Spurs. Again, it's a massive, massive shame that we have not capitalised on those teams around us that have dropped points. But we are going to go for our first break of the show for our listeners and audio. And taking you into this break, you're going to hear from Christian Stellini, who gives you his reaction to that heavy, heavy defeat up at the King Power Stadium. I must just say, massive, massive thank you for joining us here on Last Word on Spurs. We've got about 800, 900 of you here watching us live on a Saturday evening. We're joined with the brilliant Tim Winstone via Spurs Song Sheets, the superb Vasconi from the Dr. Tottenham podcast, and the brilliant Sammy Powell, a passionate Sammy Powell on this Last Word on Spurs. We're going to fly through the lineup if we can. Vas, let's come over to you to kick this off if you don't mind, Vas. So team-wise today, if I bring this up for our viewers here. Bear me 1 second if I can get the team up. This will be fun. There was our team today. So Antonio Conte was back in the dugout. As we know, he was forced into making a number of changes. Of course, they were forced by injuries. Typical Spurs. Fraser Forster come in for Hugo Lloris. Rodrigo and Bentancur and Højbjerg were named together in the midfield to face the Foxes. And as we know, Spurs are likely to have to call upon either Oliver Skip or Pat Matassar together for AC Milan, which we're going to come on to shortly. Romero was suspended after his red card. That meant Japhet Tanganga coming on the right of the back three, not Davinson Sanchez, who many feel should have started, and what we discussed earlier in the show. After his impressive display, Conte gave Emerson Royal a rest at right wing back. I can't believe I'm using Emerson Royal and rest in the same sentence. And then we saw Spurs give their 40 million January signing Pedro Porro a debut. Lucas Moura returned to the bench for the first time in months, with Ryan Sessegnon missing out entirely. So that team red: Forster, Tanganga, Dyer, Davis, Porro, Bentancur, Højbjerg, Perisic, Kulusevski, Kane, Son, with the bench of Austin, Longley, Sanchez, Emerson, Skip, Sarr, Lucas, Richarlison, Danjuma. I know that's already, and forgive me, I know we've covered a lot in regards to the lineup already, and Conte's in a flexibility, or Stellini's in a flexibility when it comes to that lineup. But it just felt that when that team came out, it was utterly bizarre, and many felt that the biggest mistake was to put Tanganga at right-sided centre-back and Porro next to each other, when you consider Tanganga hasn't played much this season. Porro was a debutant, and we also changed the goalkeeper. So can we really have expected a different display, shakily-wise, from that defence when we've made that amount of changes to it?
Look, I think he's played Tanganga there rather than Sanchez, probably because he felt maybe Tanganga's got more pace and he can cover behind Porro if Porro gets forward. Okay. As it was, Porro had a bit of a bad debut. So the defence was in disarray. But if you look at that team in its entirety, if that team plays as it can or should be able to play, then Leicester should not have been... Listen, Leicester in a decent run of form of, last couple of games anyway. But nevertheless, we should have at least competed for the whole game there, especially after taking the lead. And to Sammy's point earlier about the three at the back, they're not being good enough, I get that. My point, as I said before, was if the team plays as a team throughout, then you cope with that. I mean, I'm just looking at Brighton's back four right now. Sorry to go off on a tangent. Estupiñán, Dunk, Webster and Veltman. Any of you heard those guys? Hardly any, right? But Brighton play as a team, and that's why they're right behind us and with games in hand at the moment. So we have to play as a team, like we did last week against Man City. And today we didn't do that. We didn't do that at all, anywhere.
I do agree. Look, it feels like a long time ago now. Probably feels irrelevant in the game. But if we can come around to you, Tim, Spurs did open the scoring after a long VAR check, I must say. Perisic's corner to the back post deflected across, and Bentancur tapped it in from close range. I mean, it was an age to get that goal confirmed. For Bentancur, he has now scored as many goals as Bruno Fernandes, Gabriel Jesus, Darwin Núñez. It's his fifth league goal of the season in sixth. And it looked like the perfect start for Spurs, didn't it, Tim, at that point in time?
That was our... God, talk about good spells in the game. That was our only spell in the game, wasn't it? Those 2 or 3 corners. Perisic had that free kick, which Harry Kane didn't take. Thank the Lord. Decent effort. Again, this is a basketball to it earlier. I'm so in the middle on Perisic, because his delivery and set pieces, he's class, isn't he? He's world class. He's been world class for years. I completely agree, because he's just lost his legs. So as a player going forward or trying to track back, he makes a lot of defensive errors. He's made defensive errors all season, but his delivery from those set pieces, the lead up to that goal, were class. You know, great. We almost scored from 2 of the corners before the actual goal went in. Just snap decision. Just put his leg out. Goal time. I'm thinking, we have got away with one here. How the hell are we 1-0 up? But we'll take this. Weathered the storm. I'm thinking, right, now build on that. Go. And it just never happened, did it? It just never happened.
No.
This is what I'm...
We've got to bring into context, obviously, this injury. Coming around to you, Sam, if I can, on regards to Rodrigo Bentancur. So, Stellini said after the game he feels pain at the moment. We know only this, but he can walk. So it's important to feel that he can come back on the bench with his leg injury. And we hope that we can check in a few days that Rodrigo can feel better and play soon. Now, friend of the show, and I think, again, well known on Spurs Twitter, Paul O'Keefe suggested that this is obviously, I must just name check this, obviously this is on Saturday evening. Paul suggested that Spurs face an anxious weight on the midfielder, and there is the early fear that he's either suffered an ACL or MCL rupture, which, if that is the case, that's quite a heavy, long, sustained period without him, Sam. I mean, can we do without a guy that's been so influential? Like I say, in that midfield for us, he's actually now scoring goals. He's going to be a massive, massive miss if that is the case, Sam.
Well, firstly, I just want to say, love Paul O'Keefe, and absolutely brilliant, informative in the Tottenham world. So thank you, Paul O'Keefe. But what I will say is, Rodrigo Bentancur is irreplaceable in Tottenham at the moment. So if you look at the depth, I mean, I was looking at when Chelsea started against West Ham today. I'm not bothered about the score. I'm not bothered about how bad they're doing for how good they should be doing. But you look at the depth, and I'm not being funny. I can imagine Jenna Jameson hasn't even felt depth like that. It's absolutely ridiculous. and I'm not being funny. We have no backup for Rodrigo Bentancur. We don't have it, and we've never had that backup. And you were saying it before, Ricky, about Tottenham having the players to make it happen. We've always ever had like a star of the show. We've only ever had like your Gareth Bale. We've only ever had these stars that these standout players. And at the moment, I feel like we've got the players to make it happen, and we're not doing. The bottom line is, you put Højbjerg, you put Bissouma, and you put.
Can't do that.
Listen, you put who? Sorry, yeah, you're right. You put whoever else in midfield.
Only Tottenham. Tottenham. We lose 2 in a week.
Yep. Yeah, you're right. You put whoever you want.
It does feel that we are cursed as a club to some degree. Tim, coming back round here, we'll bring Vass in. I mean,
Ricky, let me just say this: do you think the team today was strong enough to beat Leicester City Football Club?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I think that 11 out there.
So where's the problem?
Well, for me, it's the inflexibility of the manager. I think I've said before, no disrespect. Well, there's 2 things that I've said before in this show. Number one, and I agree with Vassy, from 1 to 11, we were simply not good enough. Yes, the defence was a big issue, but don't let that cloud your judgment, as Vass has said on this as well, that from 1 to 11, we were not good enough. And then when you add to the fact that our changes, for me, are also not good enough, that is not a good... when you combine those two elements together, you are not going to win many Premier League games. You simply aren't. You simply are not going to win.
So to be controversial here, so Liverpool, right, are 9 points behind us, or are they 10 points behind us? Right, and we're 2 games ahead of them, and Liverpool are doing terrible. I mean, they are. We're all looking at Liverpool going, at least we're not them, but we're 2 games ahead of them. Right, we're 2 games ahead of them. So and they're in. Are they 9th or are they 10th? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the difference as to where we are. So what is the difference between what Jurgen Klopp's doing at Liverpool to what Antonio Conte is doing at Tottenham? At the end of the day, we've got a squad on that field that are good enough to beat Leicester City Football Club. So why aren't we doing it? And that's the big question that we need to ask ourselves today.
Well, we know, but I think, again, coming around to you, Vass, we know the answer to that. As we've said during the show, that we've said and discussed it, again, throughout this 40, 50 minutes here, an hour in, there's an inflexibility of tactics, there's a stubbornness about Antonio, and as we said, from 1 to 11, that we're not good enough. So I think, again, that makes it very, very clear. And again, Vass, when we come into the context of Leicester equalising, I mean, look, it's a rocket of a goal, but my concern is that, essentially, the way we drop off. We've had an issue this season where we've not dealt very well with adversity, where we seem to crumble at their first element again of being able to react. And there has been times, as I think you've said on this show, where we have shown a strength of character. Don't get me wrong. But it does feel recently, Vass, and again, this is your opinion, you tell us what you think, that is a bit of a mental problem. And that's what Stinley kind of alluded to as well. He said from his perspective that the mentality of the players has to improve. In this league, you can't turn off. After the goal, something changed. Can you understand what he's saying on that point?
It's just been a succession of managers now that have talked about the mentality of the players. So this has got to be a player issue as much as it is a coaching issue. We can complain about the defence rightly. We can complain about the manager rightly, but The difference today ultimately was that Leicester wanted to win more than our players did. And that's what put them in position to take control of the game. At no point did any player out there show in any way that they were going to try and wrestle back control of the game and, move the club forward, the team forward for the day. Didn't happen. So there's a lot going on, Rick. I mean, I don't even know where to start, to be perfectly honest with you. I was just very, very disappointed with everything today.
I mean, look,
I think
go on, Tim.
to be fair, mate, just to say, having that first goal was an absolute. I mean, that's gone top back.
Yeah, it's a rocket. You can't do it. I mean,
you can blame Perisic because Perisic is kind of like.
Yeah, I think he should have come out a bit quicker. Yeah,
he should have. You're absolutely right. And again, that's probably his age. He's probably. I know he's trying to avoid the handball thing. The guy's absolutely. Hugo's not saving that. Fraser's not saving that. The problem is the reaction of the team afterwards. There was no reaction. It was just fall back, and again, defensive mistake after defensive mistake. That's the issue for me. It wasn't necessarily the equaliser. I was kind of upbeat, thinking, "Wow, to be fair, he's absolutely pinged that." So fair enough. But then I'm then expecting, we've already scored. It's now 1-1. Let's go again.
Exactly. Let's go again. No, I agree. That's my worry. That the fact the equaliser goes in and look, it's a great strike. I mean, there is that argument. I think again, upon reviewing that replay quite a number of times, I think we could have got out quicker. That's my personal opinion on it. It's a wonderful strike. Take nothing away from that. Forster's got no chance with that, but we have to get out quicker. It's so typical as well that, I mean, that's his, I think, first goal since 2015. It's such a Spurs thing that many Spurs fans will relate to the fact that for him to score like that and the nature of it, I mean, we then implode in the most politest way. 2-1 Leicester. Davis, poor ball out. Faze beats Kane to the ball on the halfway. And again, it makes that point that you said, from 1 to 11, simply not good enough. And then, quite frankly, there's nothing. There are 2-on-2. It's rolled to Maddison. And being honest, Vass, it's just absolutely catastrophic defending. It's trying to defend the indefensible, right?
It was awful. It was awful. Awful defending. And sorry to go one step ahead here. You've gone down 2-1. Then the onus is on you to react and try and get back in the game. And we never looked like we did. And instead of hopefully getting in at half-time, 2-1 down, maybe have a discussion and change something, come out for the second half, we go and let in a third just to make it even worse. And that was abysmal.
Unforgivable.
As well.
Unforgivable, the third.
Absolutely.
Unforgivable. If you're 2-1 down, again, you're in a position where I was kind of thinking, bloody, how has this game turned around? I'm thinking, do you know what? We turned that many games around this season against, I know their form's improved, but against an average sort of team, I think we got a chance here. We got enough players to be able to do another Bournemouth. Last time I was on the show, Ricky, we won 3-2, didn't we? From nowhere in that game. And then for that, just in the 48th minute, it's just, I know it happens in football, it's just unforgivable goal. And then the game's like, it'd take an absolute unbelievable performance, 1 in a million, to turn that around from 3-1 down at half time, because mentally the players are shot then, aren't they? So
I just think that the worry for me is the way in which we're caught out of position. You then suddenly have Iheanacho and Maddison on a 2v1. It all just stems again just defensively. Just when we're not there, we're not there, and that is my biggest concern. That I talk about reacting badly to adversity. First, there's 2 minutes and 19 seconds in between those 2 Leicester goals.
Yeah, it's poor.
It's so poor, isn't it? At any level, at any level. I mean, whatever.
Not poor, it's absolutely shit. And the bottom line is, all we're coming back to.
Cut apart.
All we're coming back. Sorry if there's obviously this isn't going live on Sky Sports, so we can speak our views. That's not good enough. And the thing we're coming back to is the defence. I'm sorry, you say it's not. You're saying it's not just the defenders. It is. It is their job.
Sam, it is the defenders. But I mean, in one of those goals, Harry Kane has not got to the ball first, and
he hasn't got to the ball first.
That was happening far too often today. That where last week
it happened far too often today. You're right.
Where last week, Sam, we was first to everything. This week we were second to everything.
He's got an 89% stat of getting to the ball first. He's an absolutely brilliant player. And the bottom line is,
today,
as Vass was saying, not today. Well, as Vass was saying, the most pivotal thing about this is it's a team sport, and you're right. You have to. It's about all of the team. But when it gets into that level, when it gets to the back, your strikers and your midfielders, they can't do anything. And it's about having the skill at the back. It's like, again, I keep referring to it in business. If you've got a company that are doing a lot of sales, but you're not getting any money in, it's down to your admin team and you want to go and talk to them. And people have their own job to do what they have to do on the pitch. And the bottom line
I agree,
is,
I agree, Sammy.
It's the defence, Ricky.
But in my opinion, though, today, coming over, and we'll bring Tim on this, that for me, there's no excuses that 11, however you dress it up or whatever you say, we did not do enough as a team. Yes, the defence was horrendous, but before it even gets to the defence, the midfield, the forwards, it's got to come through there. And the way in which the team were enabling to do that, Tim, bringing you in and we'll go to Vass, just simply isn't good enough, is it, Tim?
Yeah, so again, just looking at that, like the goal with the day, Davis plays up to Kane, right? So my issue is, having played as a very average slow centre half, so they train again. There's no excuse about midweek games. They've trained all week, so the position in the centre halves in that situation is shocking. They can't allow that to happen. So Kane loses the ball. You anticipate he's not going to win the ball, right? So if he doesn't win the ball, you're not just cut open within took one pass, didn't it? Cut us open to pieces, and it happened twice in the same 2 or 3 minutes, like you're saying. So the positioning, and that does come down to the coaching, doesn't it? Because all the players are not doing what the coaches are saying. Because
it does, mate.
You wouldn't set yourself up to be that open twice in 5 minutes. Something either meant the players are mentally shot or something's gone on there. But that's the issue for me. It's not necessarily Kane not winning the ball, because I agree we do defend it from the front. He's got to win that. If he doesn't win it, he's not going to win every ball. Just like Son's losing the ball quite a lot now. He's trying to turn players. He's getting caught left, right, and centre. Right. But then equally, I'm completely agreeing with Vass, because if you in a game of football, that happens too many times. Let's say you pump the ball up to Son and Kane, and they don't hold it up like they usually do, and it happens 10 times, they're going to score 2 or 3 goals, aren't they? If they're good enough, and equally we don't have a good enough back three, which we all know. The problem is, we're not playing today. We weren't playing as a team. Right from the top, right from the back. And on top of that, our positioning was absolutely shocking.
You're right, Tim. What was going on? Do you know what, Tim? If you build a house, and I'm just going to defend my argument here, if you build a house with the very best materials, right, on very weak foundations, it will still fall. And the bottom line is, it doesn't matter the quality that you've got here. If it's not good here, it ain't going to work. If it ain't good at the bottom half, it's going to fall apart. And that's exactly what's happening at Tottenham. I said it last week, the other week on the show. It's like a bodybuilder who's juiced up at the top, looking absolutely amazing, who never does leg day. We are bad at the back. We know
that, and I think, sorry to interrupt, we are bad at the back. And I think we're all in agreement that we need centre backs.
Absolutely,
and we are
more
all
than
in agreement. I think that our defence isn't good enough, right? But how did we keep the pressure off of our defence today?
We didn't.
Exactly.
That's a great question.
How many times?
No, you're right, mate.
How many times did we move the ball from midfield into attack, find runners, keep the pressure on Leicester, keep Leicester in their half?
We were never on the front foot, ever.
Never on the front foot.
You are right. You are right.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm not right, because we're both right, because ultimately there are flaws in our defence, and I totally agree with Sammy on that. They aren't good enough, some of those players. However, my argument today is that, I think you said it, Rick, 1 to 11, that the application wasn't there from any of them.
No, I agree.
Even simple passes were not being made. From midfield to attack, or from Kulusevski to the wing back, or Perisic to Son, or Son running into dead ends. It was just, if you can't build up some momentum to promote your attacking play and create chances, then all you're going to do is ship goals at the back, because your defenders aren't good enough.
Yeah, so maybe that's where we are. So where we are is, and I'm not saying they would coach the team to say, look, we've got a weak back three, so we really need to play really well between the attacking midfield to stop us shipping goals. But maybe we can't just hold out a 1-0 anymore like we used to be able to do, because our back line isn't great. So when our front three and our midfield don't play well, if we always concede goals, we're always going to lose games, aren't we? I mean, it's just. Well,
the weird thing is, Tim, we've had a few 1-0 wins recently, haven't we? Back to back.
Yeah.
So we've defended well, but we've defended as a team. And then
Yeah.
our forward players have done
So
their
true.
bit as
When we
well.
don't, we are in trouble, aren't we? When we don't defend
Yeah.
as a team, we're just in trouble.
But that's the thing, like we say, it's 5 clean sheets in the last 7. I think we all felt after last week, and listening to your podcast as well, Vaz, I think we all felt that maybe we're slowly starting to turn a corner. And just when you think we're starting to turn a corner, it's almost classic Tottenham. Look, we're just going to cover that third goal. I mean, the worry thing again is coming over to you, Vass, and when we'll go to the boys is that, it's seconds before half time. I think anyone will say, look, if you're going into half time, keep that game now tight. Just get to half time. We're 2-1. Let's regroup. Do not give away a third goal. And that's exactly what Spurs did. Iheanacho has been allowed to walk. I'm not even saying running. He's been allowed to walk with that ball, and Dyer lets him walk. Carries on walking almost to the 6-yard box, and he almost picks his spot completely unchallenged. And I'm not, again, this is nothing personal against Eric Dyer, but he has literally watched him do that. No tackle, no pressure to allow him to even try and get a tackle in. But he's all at sea, and it's such a sloppy goal to concede right on the brink of half time. That's where, being honest with you, even for Tottenham, even Bergwijn style, I'm not sure going to salvage that. What do you think of that third goal?
No, I'll make you right. Dyer gave him too much time to essentially pick his spot. And all right, maybe some viewers will think it's tough to blame Forster on that goal, but I don't think he set himself properly. He wasn't on his toes.
He passed it in the net.
He passed it in the net. Yeah, he passed it in the net, and it wasn't a good look at all. We should have gone in 2-1 down, regroup, come out again, and try and make an impact on the game. And that was just shocking. I agree with you, Rick.
I've just got a question for you, right? So that goal for me comes from the ball goes over the top, right? Eric Dyer's got a decision. He either attacks it or he sits off.
Yep.
Right? Do you think Romero's sitting off? No chance. He's going straight through that.
I'm telling you, Romero is whatever Romero does, whether he's going to take a booking or not, which will then resent him for taking the booking.
Yeah,
he does not allow the defender to. Does not allow the forward to keep on coming onto him and refuse to put a tackle in. And that's the thing that what annoys me with that goal, Tim, is that as with the second goal, it's one punt forward upfield, which is then left with Iheanacho and Dyer 1v1. The striker twists and turns him inside out. It's finished well, but it's just an awful time to concede. To be that passive and collectively, as a group, allow that situation to happen seconds before half time. I have to use that word, Tim. It's amateur to go in at 3-1 behind.
It always takes you back to England when we played Brazil. David Beckham, wasn't it? And remember, David Beckham gets done on the side, and 2002, and he gets done, and then they just go through and they go 2-1 up at half time, or 1-1, or we can see it's just the worst mental thing to do to concede before after. Whether you're ahead in the game, whether you're drawing, whether you're losing like we had, and you go another goal behind it just is an absolute killer. And it's just I know it's football. I know we're trying to overanalyze it here, but you just can't let that happen. And in those circumstances, when we've already been cut open twice before, it's just unforgivable. And then again, that for me, and I'm the most optimistic fan, I'm thinking there's no miracle here, because it's just if you're going at half time, it's going to take someone to turn that game round, unless the other team have an absolute,
Just to Ian there, he's never seen me so annoyed. Ian, go and listen back if you can bear it. Go listen back to me on the Forest Carabao Cup. I'm telling you, if we go out these cups, that will kill me. I'm telling you, for me, the cups are so important to Tottenham. You're going to hear me how important they are later in the season. Sam, we've got to come around to you. We are going to look ahead to AC Milan very, very shortly. I know that feels like a long way away, but it's not. It's creeping up on us very, very quickly on Tuesday. Obviously, in that second half, a real very, very much lack of desire from Tottenham. I think we all felt going into half-time, although Bergwijn did an absolute miracle, which you were here for, Sam, for that game. Look, he might be a big loss to us, Bentancur. He's gone off injured. Spurs players gathering around him. It's a massive, massive problem. We're going to obviously keep our fingers crossed and hope he's all good. And then essentially the 4-1, Sam, again, the game's gone by that point. Barnes puts it in. I say he puts it in. He put it in the first time, which was then disallowed, but he does get his goal eventually. And Spurs watch him again, Sam. He backs off, we back off.
Yeah, he deserves that goal. He deserves that goal, to be fair. If I was on a Leicester podcast, I'd be going mad about him, saying that he deserves it. But I'm on a Tottenham podcast saying that I'm absolutely fuming about it, because I was here for the Bergwijn moment, wasn't I? I was on the show that night. I was buzzing, and I was actually just talking about Stevie B in a very debatable conversation yesterday. for someone that said he wasn't good enough for Tottenham Hotspur, and it did get very heated about the fact that Tottenham have these players with such talent, but don't seem to use them to the very best. Like Lucas Moura that brought us those amazing moments, and now being sort of put at the back of the shelf. Stevie B, who has brought us some of Tottenham's greatest moments and put to the back of the shelf, and just this decision that's been made to strengthen the front, but the back's always left quite derelict, if I'm honest. And I only really remember, well, let's Peter Crouch if you're listening, and Matt Dawson if you're listening. They're absolutely brilliant at all levels. But there was Toby and Jan that were the glory days for us. And the bottom line is, we haven't seen anything as strong as the centre back since then. So we're always looking at how to strengthen the power and then benching it and changing it, but it's always at the back. Yeah. I've got to ask you this, Ricky. You've just mentioned AC Milan. Now, if Leicester City were going into a draw against AC Milan in the Champions League, who would you fancy? Well, you'd fancy AC Milan. And the bottom line is, I feel like Tottenham Hotspur they've got the quality to do what we can do in the Champions League.
They're not in good format either.
They did. I say what we'll do is we are just going to go for our final break of the show for our listeners and audio. And as we take you into this break, you're going to hear from Elaine from the Milan Obsession, and we got Steph as well from Sempre Milan giving you their thoughts ahead of that game. Look, I'll be honest, guys. As we're recording here right now, look, Spurs had a really dreadful time with regards to injuries. In relation to this week, we've already lost Hugo Lloris. We lost Yves Bissouma as well now. Obviously, he's going to be out for a sustained period. And now breaking news from Ali Gold, friend of the show. We understand that Ryan Sessegnon is set to miss at least 6 weeks with a new hamstring injury. Now, there'll be many that probably think that's not a big issue given how inconsistent Sessegnon is for the team. But what that does mean now is, I think, and I've heard Vass say he's got a lot, you're going to get a lot, you have to get a lot now out of Ivan Perisic, who I think, Vass, you've said it on a number of occasions. I'm the same as you, Vass. I have not been massively convinced with him in terms of performances. I think dead ball, been brilliant. Set pieces, you can't argue with that. But in terms of the actual application of his game, I'm not sure he's going to be good enough for the next 6-7 weeks. So Spurs have got a lot of injuries going into this game against AC Milan. And we discussed Milan right there. Spurs are going to be in a difficult situation. It looks like at the moment, Spurs are going to have to play a midfield duo unless Bentancur recovers of Oliver Skipp and Pat Matassar. Now, it's typical that at the time we bring you this show, AC Milan last night on the Friday, I think they won their first game in 8, I think I'm right in saying. They beat Torino by 1-0. That was, just to put it into context, that's against 16th place Salernitana. So, again, look, they've got a win. It's not the most glamorous win, but it does stop the rot for them. That's ahead of AC Milan. What's your thoughts on it? And for those that care about Valentine's Day, is it worth giving up Valentine's Day for it? Because we're going to be here for it. What do you make of it, Vass?
I was quite looking forward to that game, but now, obviously, you said Bissouma's out, Bentancur likely out, Højbjerg suspended, I believe.
Yeah, Cess now out. Yeah,
Cess now out. So yeah, we could well be starting a midfield pairing of Pape Matassar and Oliver Skipp. What can I say, mate? Everyone's going to have to step up. It's going to be. I know Milan have been in a bad run of form, but they're going to be at home. We've just got to ride it out as best we can and try and catch them on the break, which is what we tend to do in these types of games. So let's hope it works on Tuesday.
Let's get ready for you, Vass. Prediction-wise, what are you going to go for?
I'll go for a 1-1 draw.
1-1 draw. Do you think over the 2 legs, Vass will have enough?
Yes, we should have enough, especially with the second leg being at the Tottenham Stadium, or White Hart Lane, as I always call it. But really, this midfield situation may be an issue for us. We are certainly a different team with Bentancur in the side than without. But yeah, it may be the opportunity for somebody else to step up, or maybe even for Conte to change formation and just go. With a 3-5-2, for example, and just put an extra body in midfield. Just do something different to accommodate for the.
Yeah.
He's not going to do it, is he?
Oh, no, that's
you do feel though there's got to be an element of some
all I can
flexibility.
see is Tim's silhouette, by the way.
Yeah, that's all you want to see tonight. 'Cause I'm raging.
Tim's performance is almost like where he's in the dark, quite frankly. Sam, let's come over to you, Sam. Look, I mean, AC Milan, it is a glamour tie for Tottenham, whatever we say. And, you know, some would argue the fact that maybe it's a good time to play them when we're just trying to get over a really, really bad defeat. I'm not too sure. I think when you look at the injuries that we've got, and of course that suspension, Vass mentioned, no Pierre Højbjerg. Romero will be back, of course, for Tottenham. But essentially, look, it looks like at the moment with Bentancur, that doesn't look like a good injury. We'll see what happens with him. But Basuma out, Sessegnon now out. Honestly, Sam, what's your thoughts going into this game for you?
Well, Sessegnon out doesn't bother me. Not being rude, but it doesn't. But you know what? We can beat AC Milan. We can. But if you'd have asked me last week if we can beat Leicester, I would have told you the same thing. So this is the global dilemma, which is Tottenham Hotspur. The bottom line is Antonio Conte going to be on the sideline pulling his shirt off? And if he is, then we've got a massive chance for it. And that's what he brings to Tottenham. I absolutely love Antonio Conte, and I love him because of his passion. And if his passion's gone, same like if you're in a relationship with a girl or you're in a relationship with a boy, blah, blah, blah. If that passion and that spark goes, the relationship will die.
I think Sam. My worry is, Sam. My worry is is he fit enough? I mean, I'm talking now like medically to be even with us at the moment. Because if he's not, then are we rushing him back?
I don't know the answer because obviously he wasn't there for the Man City game, and you saw what happened there, and we gave what we gave, which I thought was a 99.5% passionate performance without him. However, he is. I do believe he's the fuel. I do believe he's the fuel. If he's running up and down the sideline, then I'm still going. You know, if we're 5-0 down and Antonio Conte is still going for it, then I still believe, and that's what a manager should give you. They give you that belief, and that's what Antonio Conte's brought to Tottenham. And that's what I've bought into. And you know, the bottom line is, that's what I want to see. I want to see that passion. He's Italian. I think he's going to be very, very up for the Milan game. And my honest opinion is, I think we can beat them. But you know, we all need to be on point in order for that to happen. Pedro Porro is not to be judged on tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
Absolutely, I totally agree. Do not be judging Pedro Porro when we've not got, you know, Hugo Lloris as captain in goal, when you've not got Romero in that back line. You can't do that. You can't.
People were judging Kulusevski after about 20 minutes last year.
They did.
What have we learned with debutants? Never
judge. Kulusevski was marked really well today. That's
another thing, isn't it? Teams are finding us out.
He's normally well ahead of the game. He was marked really well in today's game, and you've got to give that to the manager of Leicester. You've got to give that to Leicester. But the bottom line is, you know, that we've got what it takes to beat AC Milan. We have got what it takes to do it.
Sam, let's get a prediction from you, bud. What are you going to go for prediction-wise?
I fancy a 2-1 win for Tottenham.
Okay, mate. Thank you so much, Sam. Always a pleasure having you on, mate. Passionate, lively. Always has been Sammy Powers here, which we love him on. Tim, mate, I'm so sorry to bring. Listen, we kind of have a song to sing us out on the nature of this.
Don't you worry.
Utter.
We'll have a song when we get through the Champions League.
Please, God, Sam. Sorry, go on, Tim.
So I was just going to say, I'd just go back to it's just Tottenham, isn't it? So we've got every chance of having skipping the midfield and whoever else, and we just get a result. I can see backs to the wall 1-1 maybe, and then we turn it around at home. I'd hope so, because you know, we worked so hard to get there, didn't we, in the last season, and we did play really well towards the end of the last season. We were battering teams. To beat Arsenal, for it all to come crashing down in a couple of weeks because we got a few injuries and we had a bad result, unless we'll be gutting. So,
absolutely,
I'm going to have to sign out, gents, because I'm under a strict curfew tonight.
We all know the thing. We're all going to sign out. Tim, give us a prediction before you sign out. What are you going to go for, Tim?
So I think 1-1. I think we'll hit one on a break. I think they'll score because of our back, whatever our back three or back four is going to be. But I'd fancy us to turn it around and go through. overall.
Finally, Tim, where can we find the work you're doing, Tim, over at Spurs Song Sheets? Give us a heads up where we can find all the content you're doing.
When we are doing that, so please go to @Tim_Winstone @Spurs Song Sheet, all on Twitter. I've put a lot of stuff on YouTube. There's an album on SoundCloud as well. We have put the Porro song up, which is the classic, The Entertainer, the old song by Scott Joplin. So we're waiting to play that. So maybe this Tuesday is the one.
Please God.
Maybe this
Please
Valentine's Day is the one.
The Valentine's one. Tim, thank you so much, mate, for making this work. Vas, always a pleasure to have you on Last One on Spurs, mate. Where can everybody hear? Look, whenever you come on, Vas, there's so much love for you on this show. I know. Can I say, Vas is going to end this. Vas is going to end at some point. This dreadful run he's on. It will be on Last One on Spurs. So we're going to wheel him out.
Crossed.
Please God. Please
Yeah,
God.
yeah.
Vas, where can everybody hear your dulcet tones on a week-to-week basis, mate?
Yeah, so we normally broadcast on a Sunday evening around 8ish on YouTube, and the podcast goes out on audio. You can find it wherever you get your podcast from, Spotify, Apple Pods, wherever. It's everywhere. So, yeah, tune in and give us a listen. Ricky listens, so you guys.
I do
can
listen. I
jump on
say
as well.
for me, it's always my Monday morning commute. Always Dr. Tottenham. Please go and check them out. Vas and the boys do an
Thanks a
amazing
lot.
job over there. And I tell you, they manage the hosting better than I bloody do in terms of the rundown. I tell you,
I
they
don't know
bloody do.
about that.
Honestly, really, really do. Sam, mate, lovely to have you on. I must have said, I know we've missed it tonight. We've got a Fradame discount code dropping very, very soon. We're going to put that out on the socials, mate. Sam, always a pleasure to have you on, mate. Always love for you. Whenever you come on, bless you. Always opinions.
Sorry about tonight. I'm so
Mate, we're all
annoyed.
mate, we've lost 4-1 to Leicester. Listen, we've lost 4-1
we're
to
all
Leicester.
annoyed, mate. We're all
Mate,
annoyed.
we lost 4-1 to Leicester.
I'm so annoyed,
Do not
Just
apologise.
remember, Arsenal drew from being ahead. Chelsea drew at West Ham, and bloody Newcastle drew.
And I know.
I'll tell you what,
you know
Tim,
what,
that
you know
makes
what,
me more.
Tim,
But that makes me more angry. That makes me
I know,
more angry that we have not
I
taken
know
advantage.
I'm with Ricky on that. I'm
That
with
makes me
Ricky
more
on that.
angry.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
a league, and we need to keep an eye on the league. But we're Tottenham fans, and that's not good enough for us, is it?
know.
And
It's
just for
not
Jordan's
good enough
sake,
for us.
can we talk about the defence one more time? I think we're done with the defence. We're done with it. But
I'll let
thank-
Sammy take
There is-
that one on.
There is no
I'll let Tim
defence.
take-
Listen,
yeah.
Ricky, just before you say, because we're not done the Fradame thing, I just want to tell everybody who's on the show who's still listening, if they want to order these Fradame snapback caps that we've got on here, just to do my promotion, LWOS 20 is still available on the website, but we've got a 1 month waiting list. So the first batch has gone, the second batch has gone, so there is a 1 month waiting list on the caps. So get on there and get them ordered, because there's a lot of people here, a lot of stars who you might know wearing these as well. Especially
No one in our back three's wearing them, are they, Sammy?
Hey?
No, back three's going to
Well,
definitely
no,
not.
they were wearing the blindfolds that we sell, mate. No.
Not the way Sammy's spoken about him tonight, they're not, I tell you. But listen, guys, thank you so much for your support. We are back with you on Valentine's Day. Let's hope it's for a show of love, not for another show of grief. But listen, from the wonderful Tim Winstone via Spurs Song Sheet, for the brilliant Vasconi over the Dr. Tottenham podcast, and always the wonderful, energetic Sammy Powell, we've been the Last Word on Spurs. We're back with you very, very soon. As always, please keep safe, keep well, and as always, come on, you Spurs.